Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another video on AMTV Who. And today we're going to be talking about an article that was, quoting the Fifth Doctor himself, Peter Davison. Now you may remember 10 years ago for the 50th anniversary, Davison, together with some of his fellow Doctors, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and many cameos from many other Doctors, companions, etc., they made the Five-ish Doctors reboot, which was sort of a parody, pastiche on Doctor Who itself, you know, a love letter to the show for the 50th anniversary, sending it up a bit as well, but doing it with a lot of, like, comedy and a lot of just... It was just something really lovely for fans to enjoy. I remember watching it back in 2013 and, you know, it had all those, like, lovely references and all those pop-ups, all those cameos. Cameos from non-Doctor Who actors as well. I highly recommend that you go and watch it back if you haven't already. There are many ways to watch it, but again, just a true love letter to Doctor Who fans everywhere. Well, recently, this is from the Radio Times, they report that Peter Davison reveals a scrapped plan, or plans, for the Five-ish Doctors reboot follow-up. He spoke about the prospect of a new skit for the 60th anniversary, which is of course this year. It's mad to think it's been 10 years since the 50th anniversary, the Five-ish Doctors, the original madness. This article was written by Beth Axford, who's a lovely presence in the Who community, so very excited that she's written this article for the Radio Times. She writes that Fifth Doctor Peter Davison has exclusively revealed his plans to create a follow-up to his hit 2013 sketch, the Five-ish Doctors reboot, for this year's 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. The original skit celebrated 50 years of the legendary show and featured Davison alongside 6th Doctor Colin Baker and 7th Doctor Sylvester McCoy attempting to sneak their way into a role in the coveted 50th anniversary episode Day of the Doctor, which it was heavily implied that they did, playing some of these, well, basically hidden Zygons under these blankets. With guest appearances from Doctor Who alumni such as David Tennant, Paul McGann, Matt Smith, and a whole host of companions, the film was a success and beloved by fans around the world who hope to catch a glimpse of past Doctors and friends for the anniversary celebrations. Speaking on the prospect of a follow-up 60th anniversary spoof, Davison and his wife, who's the author Elizabeth Morton, have confirmed that a new sketch was planned, but was eventually scrapped. He says, "I came up with an idea. It was deemed, by those I showed it to, as utterly unacceptable, although I thought it was very funny." Elaborating on that scrapped script, Davison explained, "It's a different world now, and I am always, I wouldn't say pushing the boundaries, my sense of humour is maybe a little out of sync with the sense of humour that now exists." That's an interesting comment, isn't it? I mean, fair play to Peter for basically, you know, taking it in his stride, saying that, you know, his, as he said, his sense of humour might not be in sync with the majority of, like, maybe the fans now, or like just the world now in general. I think that's quite big of him to say, because, you know, the man is, how old is he now? He's in his 70s, isn't he? And I think it's good that a man in his 70s can acknowledge that maybe his humorous tastes aren't in line with either, like, you know, what's maybe perhaps acceptable now or what's going to be liked by most. Not criticizing him for having that sense of humor. I'm commending him for sort of acknowledging that, you know, he feels his humor's out of sync with everyone else, as he put it. And if he's saying that the people he showed it to was utterly unacceptable, it does make you think, you know, like what sort of script was conjured up there. I don't think it elaborates who he did show it with. I'd imagine maybe members of his family. We forget, of course, that David Tennant is Peter Davison's son-in-law. 10th Doctor is the 5th Doctor's son-in-law. That's insane. Maybe he showed it to him. Maybe he showed it to his daughter Georgia, who of course played Jenny, the Doctor's daughter. But we really don't know. But interesting that those who they showed it to deemed it unacceptable. The pair went on to discuss trying to top the original version and what it would take to create something just as brilliant and celebratory. It was so perfect, and it just evolved. It started off so small. Peter was just going to film it himself. But the whole thing became, well, suddenly you go, Ian McKellen has agreed to be in it, Peter Jackson said. Pop by, it was phenomenal. To get that perfect storm, I think it would diminish the original Five-ish Doctors if you tried to do it again, said Morton, who's Peter's wife. And yeah, Ian McKellen was in that one, I keep forgetting about that, but I think because the concept of the Five-ish Doctors was so, like, when it arrived, it was so, like, left field, no one was expecting it, you know, this was something done by one of the Doctors himself, you know, he wrote and directed it as well, which I think was his directorial debut, so such a fun little side project for the anniversary. It was such like a lightning in a bottle thing. Not saying it could never be done again, but I think the concept of it was so unique at the time. To try and do that follow-up, I think they're quite right in the sense that it would be quite difficult to top it. Peter added, "I wouldn't have wanted to do it anyway unless I thought it could be as good and better. So in the end, it became very clear to me that there were too many compromises I'd be asked to make in the making of it, and I thought it'd just be best to leave it alone because the original was perfect." And again, big up to Peter for acknowledging that. Directors have to compromise all the time in the acting world. There's so many things that you might have ideas for that you can't do for, well, a variety of reasons, whether that be budget or otherwise. And, you know, acknowledging that, you know, with what he had or what he wanted to do, he'd have to make too many compromises. So rather than pursue the project anyway, rather than rush it or, you know, try and make it work, just to leave it in general. I think, again, fair play to Peter, very big of him. Davison went on to add that his experience with directing led him to realise that he didn't quite learn the knack of compromise required for an updated anniversary spoof. That's the trouble with my first experience with directing. As much as I enjoyed it enormously, I realised I'm too unmoving. I've not gained the talent of compromising with what I want. Again, it must be so hard. I've not directed personally myself, but obviously I've been around directors as an actor, and, you know, the amount of compromise they have to make, sometimes in very last minute and difficult situations. It is a skill. It's something you adapt to. It's something you've got to kick into action quickly when needed. And I mean, I no disrespect to Peter, I thought the Five-ish Doctors, the original, was brilliantly directed. I thought it's a really, really strong example of a first-time director. Rounding off the revealing conversation, the pair suggested that the BBC air the Five-ish Doctors reboot again to celebrate 60 years of our favourite time-travelling show. Rewatch anyone? I'd be down for that, you know. You remember all the, like, watch-alongs in lockdown with the tweet-alongs and stuff like that? I'd be so down to do that with the Five-ish Doctors. I do need to watch it again. That was honestly such a fun, like, skits, a fun parody. Again, a glorious celebration of the 50th anniversary of the show. It was personally one of my favourite aspects of the 50th anniversary, if I'm going to be completely honest, just because it was so much fun. It was so different. So I'd love for the BBC to do that, you know, whether put it on the iPlayer or put it on something, you know, re-air it somewhere, please, even if it's just like once on the actual anniversary day itself. I just think it needs that chance. In terms of physical media, you can get it on a bunch of the 50th anniversary releases, like the original limited edition DVD and Blu-ray that came out, but you can also get it on the complete 50th anniversary special steelbook, which I'm not sure if that's in print anymore, so you might be turning to the second-hand market for that. We're just going to have a quick look and see if it is on BBC iPlayer. So it's not on the iPlayer, but it is, if you type in the Five-ish Doctors reboot, go on the BBC website, it is here. It is available for you to watch in full, a 31-minute little parody here. And look at them there. There's Peter, Colin and Sylvester looking resplendent in their former Doctor's outfits, sort of. Honestly, go and rewatch the Five-ish Doctors again. It's joyous. As to whether or not I'd want them to do another one, you know, if you asked me initially, I think my gut reaction would be yes, just because I love the original one so much, and I think Peter's got such an enthusiasm behind, like, that project and, you know, celebrating the show, the fans, everything about Doctor Who. But I guess I understand his reasoning as well. You want it to be as good, that you don't want the dreaded thing of sequels where they're never as good as the original, which is always a high bar to cross in some cases, but in hindsight, if they don't end up doing it, I think that's fair enough. Let the Five-ish Doctors be that wonderful thing that occurred during the 50th anniversary, something that we can go back, revisit, and treasure. But if they ever do decide to do another one for any other reason, and they feel that the script's good enough or whatever, I'm going to lap it up. But yeah, really great article there from Beth for the Radio Times. Go and check it out online if you want to read it for yourself. But what do you think about this news? Do you personally want another Five-ish Doctors reboot adventure? Do you want the sequel? And if you did have the sequel, you know, who do you want it to include? I think they'd have to update the roster of Doctors. Like, obviously have Peter, Colin, Sylvester. You've got to have Paul in there as well. David and Matt appeared in the last one. It'd be great to have them again. Imagine getting a cameo from Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker even, or Joe Martin, or dare I say even Ncuti Gatwa. That would be amazing to get a cameo there. Maybe not in character yet, since he hasn't had his debut, but, you know, in some form. And imagine Chris. Let's get Christopher Eccleston in that. Imagine if you got him for a cameo for that. That would be insane. Whether or not that will happen, I don't know. But yeah, if you ever do another one, Peter, if you're ever watching this, as many Doctors as possible, that would be insane. But yes, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Would you want to see another Five-ish Doctors? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it. Really helps out the channel. And subscribe to us here as well. We'd love to have you aboard. In the meantime, I've been Adam Martin from AMTV Who. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time for another trip in the TARDIS.